young men and women from all everyone. Thank you all for coming out on such short notice. It's great to see such a packed room. In just a minute, I'll announce Jane, but first I wanted to go over the details of the caucus here in Anchorage on Saturday. Is everybody in here feeling the burn? Awesome. And I will be handing out Commit to Caucus cards. If you haven't filled one out already, go ahead, take one, fill it out, give it back to me at the end of the night. That would really help us out. We can send out a reminder text or phone call before Saturday. So Saturday's caucus here in Anchorage is at West High School. Does everybody know where that is? All right. The doors open at 9 o'clock. The program for the caucus starts at 10. I encourage everyone to get there early. Show up at 9, show up at 9:15. Get yourself in the door so that you will be able to vote. The caucus happens all at once, and everyone needs to be present the whole time. It's not like a primary where you would show up, cast your ballot, and then go home. It's much more of a community event. You get to talk to your neighbors about why you support Bernie, and hopefully encourage other people to come to your side of the room. So, what time are we showing up on Saturday? Yes. If you want to wait outside, you can show up earlier. All right. Does everybody know who they're supporting on Saturday? Yeah. All right. Well, without any further ado, I know you are all here to see Jane Sanders, so here she is.
It's great to be here in Alaska. Thank you for all your support for my husband, and that was very nice for me. And my daughter, Karina, is with us as well. So we've only been here about 6 hours or something, and it feels like home. It's great. Everybody we're meeting is just so interesting and so nice. I wish I could stay here for a lot longer. We'll be back after he wins the nomination. Bernie will join me. So what I'd like to do is just tell you a little bit about Bernie. I think you probably know a lot already. And what I'd like to do then is open it up to questions, because I'd rather hear what's on your mind and answer the questions that you have rather than give a speech. He usually talks for about an hour and 15 minutes. We'll do the 15 instead of the hour. So Bernie and I talked about him running for president last fall and winter. I was rather reticent. I knew how much of a commitment it would be, and mostly I watched the presidential races and I had seen such negativity, and we just didn't want any part of that. And we didn't think we'd be able to escape it. So I was pretty reticent, and we went out to, we kept on talking about it, and we were at the point where I was saying, okay, if you want to do it, I'll be 100% behind you. And he's saying, well, but if you don't really want to do it, I don't want to have you have to join in, so I won't do it. But we were talking and saying, he said to me, I'm really concerned about the fact that more and more decisions are resting in the hands of fewer and fewer people. And in the halls of Congress, it's the lobbyists and the big campaign contributors and the corporations that are not only making the decisions, but also really determining what will be discussed. And his feeling was, he said, we can keep complaining, and I can work from inside the Senate, but how can we complain and not do everything we possibly can to try to change this? So, we were sitting at Denny's for breakfast, and and he was saying, it's a question of show up or give up. And he almost had me, and then a veteran came over. And he said, I just want to come over, and I don't mean to interrupt, but I want to let you know that your office got me benefits after Agent Orange, after suffering from Agent Orange effects, after 30 years, and you've changed my life. I tried every other way, and when I got to your office, your staff was able to help me. So if you run for president, I think that's what this country needs, and I will do everything I can to help you. And I sat down. First I got up, and with tears in my eyes, I gave him a hug. Bernie gave him a handshake, and he left. And I sat down. I said, I give up. So we decided then and there. And I think the next Tuesday he went out and said, "Okay, I'm running." He told the media. And so that was exciting. But part of it is that what we're talking about is our democracy. I mean, we're looking at campaign finance, campaigns being run by huge contributions and, oh, geez. Okay. I'm from Brooklyn, too. I don't know how to say the H, but so that is the thing. I mean, when you look at veterans, they served, and many died to protect our democracy. And now we're watching more and more decisions being made that are not in the interests of the American people. They're not even at the table. The people that are making the decisions are the pharmaceutical firms. 3 of the pharmaceutical firms last year, the 3 largest, made $45 billion in profits. And they spent billions of dollars making sure that Congress would not regulate them. So, and the same with the fossil fuel industry. It's no accident that no Republican believes in climate change, because as soon as they say they do, the fossil fuel contributions will go away. So there are a lot of things that we really feel need to be addressed, and Bernie felt that the best way he could do that was to run for president. And now that I'm going around the country meeting all these wonderful people, I tend to agree. So, so his agenda, I think you're all familiar with. But mostly, to put it in a context, he basically wants the government to reprioritize itself, to have priorities that actually help the working people of this country have a better quality of life. A life that is a little less stressful, and that is a little bit more fair. We all know, about the rising income inequality, and that so few have so much and so many have so little. But he also says, okay, there's really easy policies that we should just be addressing. His opponent says they're laudable but unrealistic. And we say, well, if you're running for president, isn't that the time to have a bold vision for the future? We don't believe now's the time to tell voters, lower your sights, accept incremental change. We believe that everybody should have health care as a right of citizenship, just like every other industrialized nation. And he has a plan that can make that happen. His opponent thinks that we need to build it on the existing insurance and pharmaceutical firm plan. We're never going to get there if we do that, because you can't have health care with profit as the base foundation for it, and then be able to offer health care at reasonable prices for the rest of us. So his plan is to take out the middleman and regulate prescription drug prices so we're not paying the highest rates in the world, and 1 out of 5 people are not being able to afford them. And his plan is to have a single-payer Medicare for all system, and it will be, yes, your taxes will go up. If you make $50,000 a year, your taxes will probably go up about $500 a year. But you will no longer be paying the insurance premiums. So the cost goes down $5,000 a year. He believes that we should not bankrupt people who want to get a higher education, who want to reach their full potential, whether it be through a trade school or a liberal arts college or any other kind of training, as is the case now, where people are drowning in student debt. Does anybody here have student debt? Yeah. So he believes that we should be making public colleges and universities tuition-free, and by doing so, it's not only that we won't be bankrupting the future of our young people, but every child who's in the 3rd or 4th grade will be recognizing that they have the opportunity, if they work hard and study hard and they have the desire to go beyond high school, they will have that opportunity. Why are we not investing in that? As a country, it helps. It's not just investing in the individual person, it's investing in our country. Every other industrialized nation has that, and we used to have it. About 50 years ago, you could go to some of the best public colleges and universities in the world, in the country. He believes that anybody who works 40 hours a week should not be living in poverty, and so $15 an hour minimum wage. We are here in Alaska, beautiful country, on the front line, beautiful state. It feels like a country, it's pretty big. It's on the front lines of climate change. You're feeling it faster than the rest of us, and that's one of the reasons that I'm here. I want to see this. I want to talk with people, and I've had several meetings today. I'm here today to listen to you, and I have meetings tomorrow in Dillingham. I think that climate change, Bernie feels that it's one of the most pressing issues, the most pressing issue. We have, if the scientists are correct and they're in agreement, we are going to be seeing further acidification of the oceans, rising sea levels, people fighting for resources, fewer and fewer resources around the world, and we will see more international conflict. It's not a liberal think tank that is saying that, it's the CIA. You'd think the Republicans would at least listen to them. So we're very committed to transfer from fossil fuels to renewable energies. And he'll be doing that. We have to respect the fact that there's generations of people all over this country that have worked in the fossil fuel industry. We need to retrain them, educate them, and offer them opportunities to be able to get involved in the renewable energy future. So Bernie has a $1 trillion plan for an infrastructure plan, which will invest in our roads and our bridges and our water systems all over the world, all over the country, and we'll be looking to see in the individual states where best to spend that money. Certainly in the economically deprived places, more than the main focuses that usually get all the money. We also will be looking at investing, getting rid of the support, the incentives for fossil fuels, and transfer to renewables and invest in manufacturing. One of the things having to do with climate change, and again, a distinction between Bernie and his opponent, is Bernie completely does not agree with fracking. His opponent hasn't taken a stand on it yet. Thank you. I will be coughing every now and then, I'm sorry. A lot of airplane travel. And another difference is trade. We feel that our trade policies, our free trade policies, have just gotten us onto a race to the bottom, that they haven't been good. We've lost 60,000 factories, and we feel that we need fair trade instead of free trade. I've been going around the country meeting with Native Americans, and that has been an eye-opener in terms of fairness and agreements that are long past and have been not listened to over the years. And so I'm meeting with tribal leaders here in Alaska as well, and it's been what we've seen is a real consistency. Even though people have different views, they're concerned more about the planet than they are about anything else. And we're seeing across this country real concerns with our water, scarcity of water, aquifers being contaminated. So that is something that Bernie will be spending a lot of time on as the very beginning of his tenure. So I won't go on and on, because I know his whole speech. I could tell you the whole thing. I deliver it differently, but I know the issues. But I would just urge you to think outside the box, to recognize that now is not the time for status quo politics or status quo economics. We believe we're at a tipping point. We started this campaign with that, and what has been really gratifying is to see that Bernie, while he started at 3 or 4% in the polls, most people didn't know him outside of the Northeast. He's now neck and neck with his opponent, and the trend line has been consistently going up. He's gotten more votes from people under 30 than Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton combined. And he is now winning the vote under 50, so that's good. We just need more time to get to everybody else. I think the fact that the media doesn't cover him very much hurts in terms of the older folks like me. Anyway, I would just say to you that this is the chance that we have. And what's been very exciting is to see not only that his ideas resonated and that they support him on his ideas, people are ready to be involved, to take action, to take back their government, and to move this country forward with transformational change. So I thank you all very much for everything that you're doing to spread the word, get everybody out to Caucus, everybody you know, cook for them, bribe them, no. But I think right now is a time that we can really see significant change in this country. And it's not only the issues, it's the culture. I mean, if you look at how Bernie is running his campaign, I I met him 35 years ago when he was running for mayor, and I was a community organizer, and I organized a debate. And he stood up there and he spoke, and I said, this man embodies everything I believe in. 35 years later, I can tell you that original assessment was right on, and he has never let us down. But in this campaign, we were told, you don't have a chance. You don't have any money. You don't have a super PAC. You don't have a staff, and you don't even have an office. But we said, oh, we can, we're doing better. Right, we have you. So, but during this time also, they told them, you have to have a super PAC, you have to be beholden to special interests. I know you all know how much the average contribution is. $27. And he's gotten 5.5 million contributions. So what he does is he walks the talk. He doesn't say one thing and then say, oh, but we can't. I mean, that's just not in his vocabulary, can't. He says, this is what's right, and this is how we'll do it, and we'll do our best. And our best, thanks to all of you and all the people out there, it's working. He's also never run a negative ad in his life. And in this campaign, he has run a campaign of dignity and truth and not taken pot shots or personal attacks against his opponent. What he does do, and we will always do, is contrast the record versus the campaign rhetoric. And we will continue to do that. But you will never see him behave in a way that you wouldn't be proud of him. So I'm proud of him now than I ever have been. So I would urge everybody to believe that you have power and you can affect change. And all of us working together, we're really going to do this thing. So thank you so much, and let's transform this country. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'd like to open it up to questions, concerns, anything. Yes, ma'am.
I've got a mic for you.
I would like to know if Bernie, I know he's supportive of it, but we need him to tell the feds to back down and stay out of the state's business. And we would like for him to do that.
Yes,
Yes.
he is doing that. One of the things that he will do, I don't know how many people know, marijuana is considered a Schedule I drug, which is equating with heroin.
Exactly.
It's
exactly.
crazy.
And it shouldn't be.
Right, and I know that different states will have and will continue to decide whether to make recreational or medicinal or...
We want it all here. We've already got the medical, and we want it all. It's our right. But the other thing
but as
is,
you know,
I'm sorry. Go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, but as you know, if the President Obama hasn't said to the states, you can't do this.
Yes, I know.
So,
and it's a
but
problem.
the next president, if it was a Republican or who knows, anybody else, I don't know what Hillary Clinton's point of view on that, but
we don't want Hillary at all.
No,
we will have Bernie. I'm
could.
worried about her super delegates, which she shouldn't have. You know, that sounds like it's cheating. It looks like it's cheating if they're saying that she's got it locked up. But here in Alaska, I don't know if you know, but when we had the election for the marijuana legalization, we got more votes for that subject than any candidate or any other issue.
Okay. Well, two things on that. He will make sure that the federal government plays no role, that states have the right to decide for themselves. He's made that clear. The second thing is we want more votes for Bernie than for the marijuana legalization. Okay. Yes, sir.
We're so glad you're here. We don't get many candidates or candidates' wives here in Alaska, so thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
My name's Harry Crawford. I was one of the prime sponsors for Alaska's Campaign Finance Reform Act. We had the strongest campaign finance in the country here, but Citizens United did a end run around it. Mm-hmm. The Republicans have stacked the Supreme Court. I want a president that will give us some people on the Supreme Court that will reverse Citizens United.
Absolutely. Bernie he says he doesn't believe usually in litmus tests, but that is one for him. He will make sure that the people he nominates do not support Citizens United. Wants to overturn Citizens United. Yes.
So I know that you mentioned that Alaska's on the kind of the front line with climate change, especially with President Obama's visit in the previous year. As a state that's very, very dependent on oil revenue for funding public programs, what kind of expectations can we see from Bernie about divestment from fossil fuels, and what alternatives we can expect for states that rely on them?
Mm-hmm. He's very committed to turning away from fossil fuels. That's why he has opposed the Keystone Pipeline and all the other pipelines, the Bakken Pipeline. He doesn't believe that we should be putting more money into something that is definitely something that is hurting our planet. So there will be no more support for the oil industry, for the fossil fuel industry. What we will do is put money in to invest in manufacturing and training so that the renewable energy sources are affordable, accessible, and we have a new manufacturing base from the people who lose their jobs to the fossil fuels. And hopefully it'll be a transition as opposed to lose your job and then look. Instead, let's plan to have you retrain and move over smoothly. That's one of the things we've noticed as we've gone along around the world, that there are some countries that bring industry, education, unions, labor together to say, what are the jobs of the next 10 years, and how are we going to invest in our workforce and in our government to make sure that we do the best strategic move there, and nobody loses their job before they're just retrained for another one. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
It seems like during this caucus time, we've seen a lot of states have what smells like election fraud. And I'm wondering, what can we do to insist that there either be a recount, or what can we do to help the media understand that they cannot be calling the election before, people are still waiting in line to vote, and they're calling, the winner before we can even get a chance to vote.
Yeah. That was very upsetting to us, that we watched people stay online in Arizona until after midnight, and at I think 7:30 they called the winner, and we knew they didn't have all the votes. That they were calling the winner based on the absentee votes. And they said, oh, it's 71% of the vote. Well, it wasn't. If you watch the numbers go up, 71% just stayed down there, because we called and said, you don't have all the votes. How are you doing this? I think that we all need to be very vigilant and look at what is happening in each state. And I think we need to share accurate stories, not repeat stories that we heard. But if anybody has experience or knows full well what the experience of others is, to be able to say, no, this isn't okay. There's been a series of voter problems, voter registration, certainly lines in many, many states that have had to wait 5 hours to vote, and people be turned away. So I know that there's some movement in various places. I know that there's a petition to have the UN look at this. I know that the Phoenix mayor asked the Department of Justice to look at it, and I think that's great. So. Yeah. Yes, sir. And I should go back.
For one, I'm so excited that you're here, and I really think Bernie has a chance, and I think the media has written him off. And I've been as soon as he ran I watched his when he announces that his candidacy. Like, I actually watched it back then, and everybody thought I was crazy, and now it's like, wow, there's a real chance he's going to do this. But the question I have is for people who have student loan debt. Say he gets into office and it works out. Like, what is he going to do for those people? Because even though, I mean, tuition-free college would be great, what about the people that have already got stuck
right.
with, So
Well,
I'm just curious if he has like an idea for helping people who have debt.
there are two ideas. One, he passed a piece of legislation a while ago, and it doesn't get enough attention. I don't know how many people know about it, but we try to let people know that if you go into public service after incurring student debt, you can pay it back at a certain percentage of your income over 10 years. And it's a percentage based on how much you're making, because if you're in public service, you might not be making that much. And then I think in most cases the debt is forgiven. So that's for a number of different areas. We need to expand those areas. For instance, I don't imagine that there's anything working in terms of combating climate change. I think that's a public service. So we might want to include that with doctors and teachers and nurses and a number of other things. That's number one. He wants to expand that. The second thing is that we can all get car loans for 2%. Why can't we renegotiate our student loans? So he'll be allowing that. Where's Ellen?
Right here.
Okay.
Ganeshtish. My name is Mita Dwight-Schleifman. I am from Southeast. I am Alaska Native Tlingit, and I wanted to do one thing. I realized that you're not wearing anything from here, and so I'm going to dress you.
Aww.
So we take these sure. Sure. My name is Mita Dwight-Schleifman, yeah. So my husband is an Alaska Native artist in Carver as well. He's Tlingit. And his family, his father's family is from Brooklyn, and he's a Brooklyn Jew as well. So we're big Bernie. Yeah. So my question on the universal health care, since I am a traditional healer, and I've actually worked in the Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium for several years. I'm not there any longer, but it's still my passion and my duty to represent that, is within the universal health care system, one of the biggest challenges that we face is we do not have fee-for-service, and we cannot charge Medicare and Medicaid, insurance companies for these services, so there's no way to actually support traditional healing within the medical system. Okay. Right. So is that on your radar, or can it actually be on your radar to include traditional healing services within the universal health care?
Well, yeah, I can't talk about the fee for service because I would just be giving what I thought, and I don't want to mislead anybody. I don't know what the facts are on that. But in terms of the universal health care that Bernie is is proposing, it has alternative health care in it very strongly. As chairman of the Veterans Administration, he put money in to really explore a lot of the alternative methods to deal with PTSD and TBI. I think it's called EMDR and yoga and meditation. There's a number of things, and he's a real proponent for that, as am I, because one of the concerns that we have is the overprescription of opioids. We have so many OxyContin and Vicodin, huge overprescribing. And so his tendency would be going that way, definitely. I mean, he's planning on that. I don't know how you regulate who can charge fees for service or regulations or licensure or anything like that. But we're inclined to believe you. Yeah, we're inclined to agree with you on that.
Question over here, right here, Jane.
Oh.
Hello, and thank you for coming to Alaska.
Glad to be here.
My husband is on staff as a teacher at the most diverse high school in America, East Anchorage High School. There are many first-generation Americans, many aspiring Americans. I sat down and had lunch with one of his colleagues a few weeks ago as she and he dealt with a situation in which one of these aspiring Americans, due to immigration law, is actually being deported at age 16. What is Bernie's path forward with immigration? Because we just can't have this. We can't have families separated like this.
Absolutely. Now, we could not agree with you more. Bernie believes that we have to have a comprehensive immigration reform with a path towards citizenship, and he would stop immediately the deportations. We agree with President Obama on a lot of things. We have made it very clear that he's wrong on this. In deporting, I was just in Arizona and meeting with so many people who've lost family members to that. 84 of the 400 children that came over as children alone and were sent back, 84 of them have been killed by gangs already. We watch families just being split apart. We absolutely agree we have to stop this. Our job is to unite families, not tear them apart. And our job is to protect children from the terrible circumstances that they're fleeing. So he's going to take a very strong stand on immigration.
Right here. Jane, right here.
Hi, how you doing? So I have a mother and a sister who are both combat vets, and I know our families had difficulties dealing and coping with PTSD. I think I read a statistic the other day that somewhere between 40 to 50% of suicides in the country are combat vets.
That's right.
I was just curious what Bernie plans to do to help our vets.
Well, what he did, when all this started to come out in terms of the problems in Phoenix and the long waiting lines, that happened to be at the time that he was promoted to chairman, elected as chairman of the Veterans Committee by his peers on the committee. And that year, he came up with the most comprehensive veterans bill that has been proposed since the GI Bill in Congress. After World War II. He brought it to the floor. He had 2 Republicans and all the Democrats in his committee vote for it. He only got 56 members of the 100 in the Senate, and in the Senate you always need 60 to go forward. You have a supermajority. So what he did was, most people then walk away and say, well, I tried. As I said, he doesn't believe in the word can't, and he went and he found other members, John McCain, who's a Republican and concerned about veterans, Jeff Miller, who was his Republican counterpart over in the House side, and they just locked themselves in the room. They yelled, they slammed doors. There were articles written about it down in Washington saying they're never going to get anything done. They're both hot-tempered, but what they did was they got a compromise piece of legislation that wasn't a compromise that said we're going to each get nothing and we'll all go to the center. It was, you're going to get what I think is important, I'm going to get you're going to get what you think is important, I'm going to get what I think is important. As we think it's less important, that's what we'll let go. And they came up with the only piece of legislation that passed, the only significant piece of legislation that passed the Congress during that entire session. And it is the most comprehensive bill that has been written since the GI Bill. So he put in more money for doctors, for nurses, for staff, for outreach, for mobile units to go out into the rural areas. He lessened the waiting times by putting a lot more money into computerization of records. They were, if you can believe it, just had a lot of paper, and so it was really hard. I mean, in terms of the health care, he did education too and expanded it to families. But he also did the alternative pilot projects in a number of veterans hospitals all over the country, and he went around to the veterans hospitals and asked them, as he was writing the legislation, is this the most important thing? He won the VFW's highest award and the American Legion's highest award because of his work there. And they said that they have very rarely seen that kind of commitment to our veterans. So he will continue to do everything he can for them. They deserve our support and whatever they need.
In the ongoing debate about putting a backdoor in encryption, Apple versus the FBI, Bernie Sanders has not taken a side. Can we count on a Sanders presidency to protect our Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable searches and seizures in the area of technology?
I can tell you, it's interesting. Mel Watt, who was the Department of Housing under Obama, but he was a congressman when Bernie was a congressman, and the Republicans took over in 1995. He heard such craziness about no protection of privacy that he brought the Fourth Amendment to the floor for a vote. He didn't call it the Fourth Amendment. It lost. You know, the Republicans all voted against it. And then, that was sad, but it didn't go anywhere, thank God. I mean, it is an amendment to the Constitution. They couldn't turn it over. But then, in terms of the Patriot Act, he voted against it not once, but twice. And I think his hope is that we'll be able to figure something out in terms of figuring out encryption to deal with the terrorists, but I don't know his specific stand on that. If you say he hasn't taken one, maybe that's why. But he, you know, it's really up to the president now, and I think there's no doubt that he supports privacy rights very, very strongly. I can't tell you any more than that. Yes. Yes, sir.
So, because of Alaska, the United States is an Arctic nation. We're one of the few that is around the Arctic Ocean, and Bernie, of course, has been very clear that climate change is a reality. We have to deal with it. As part of that, the Arctic is opening up.
Yeah.
And there is now talk about Arctic shipping.
Yeah.
Okay. There has been recently, I was just checking on my phone, there's been talk for years about opening up or developing the west coast of Alaska as a deep water port, possibly around Nome. Last I had heard, and there may have been further updates, is that the Army Corps of Engineers had called off a sort of exploration about the possibility of establishing a deep water port. Obviously, it's not a problem we're happy to have, but I'm just curious one way or the other. I want to make it clear I am a steadfast Bernie supporter to the end, but I'm curious if Bernie has a position about developing basically Arctic ports, ports in the Arctic in Alaska.
You know, I really don't know. I don't know. I know that we've discussed the fact that they're opening up the airwaves, not the airwaves, waterways, and because of climate change, and that's going to cause more friction with Russia and whose is what and all that. That's as far as we've talked. I can find out and get back to you, but I'm afraid I just would be giving you what I thought would be his point of view. So.
Back here, Jane. Stand up.
Hi, Jane. Thank you so very much for being here. I've known about Bernie since Tom Hartman days, but my issues concern how people with disabilities are probably the most disenfranchised group in the world. I'm 63 years old. I have 2 master's degrees, and I've never been employed up to my abilities. Also, for aging people, there are so many outmoded policies that warehouse aging people and people with disabilities. And I just wonder what Bernie sees as respect and dignity for people with severe disabilities. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's an issue. That's an important issue. I mean, he's been very, very supportive of that as mayor of all the disability legislation, the ADA. There was another a renewal of it not too long ago, but my dad was disabled, so I know how difficult it can be. I think that one of the things that he's been focused on lately in that area is the COLAs, the cost of living increases for seniors on Social Security, and the disabled on SSDI, and the veterans on disability. What the Congress, Simpson Bowles had this commission, and they said, well, we have to cut Social Security. We absolutely have to. And what we have now, they couldn't get that through, because then they were saying, well, we're going to save Social Security by coming up with a chained CPI, because they thought, and the Republicans agreed, and unfortunately a lot of Democrats agreed, that the COLAs, the cost of living increases that seniors, veterans, and disabled people were getting were too generous. Meanwhile, we know for about 3 years it was 0, so I don't know how that could be too generous. They were coming up with a formula that would say, well, they don't have to buy computers, even though computers are going down and prescription drugs costs are going up. They were coming up with a formula that said it would be not the regular national COLA, but this chained CPI for those groups, and it would be less every year. And it would be, the formula would definitely come in lower than the national COLA. And Bernie said that the president put it in his budget. The Democrats and the Republicans and the entire media said, well, this is going to happen. And Bernie said, over my dead body. And he founded the Caucus to defend Social Security. And then what he did, and this gives you an idea of how he governs, what he did was he got members of the Congress, not many, that would join his caucus, and then he went out to all the veterans organizations, all the senior organizations, all the disabled organizations, and said, we can beat this. And they were not believing it could be beaten, because it had been talked about for 6 months before it actually showed up, and everybody said, this is the only way to save Social Security. And he pulled all these people together, and he said, now we have to make it very clear, all of us together have to work to make it very clear to these congressmen and senators and the administration that if you go through with this, you're not going to have a job at your next election, and we're not going to forget this. It took a few months, but people didn't give up, and they wrote op-eds, and they talked to the media, and they stormed the Congress, and they won. They beat it back, and we didn't ever get it. So all I can tell you is that's the way that he governs, and he will fight very hard for seniors, veterans, and disabled people. Absolutely.
Right over here.
She's got it.
Hi, Jane.
Hi.
I wanted to piggyback on what this lady in the front said earlier about the voter fraud. I am very, very concerned, and it's not just Arizona, and it's not even the long lines and the voter suppression. This has kind of morphed into election fraud. There have been reports of people who are now looking into New York, for example, their election. They had switched their voter registration to Democrat, and some of those people have gotten online, checked their voter registration, and found out that they're now libertarians, or they're Republicans, or they're independents, but anything but Democrats. And that's happened in Petaluma, California. That's happening in many, many states. So it's not just voter suppression. This is more. Some of the other issues that I've learned about were people getting emails from Hillary's campaign directing Bernie Sanders' caucus members to go to the wrong location, to confuse them. And so I guess my question is there a secure email address that people can send screenshots? I mean, these people have documentation. They have screenshots of, I am now a registered Democrat, and then they go to the election office or to the polls, and the polls tell them, oh, no, we don't have any record that you switched to Democrat. And so they've taken screenshots of what the polling place has, what's on what they were initially given, and we need some sort of place, central location, to compile all this information. I hear that there's like an FBI, some people at the FBI that are maybe getting interested in looking into Arizona, but it needs to really go farther than that. It needs to go to every state that's reporting this problem. And now the whitehouse.gov has like over 120,000 signatures of people who believe that there's a lot of election fraud going on. So it's not just a few of us. Mm-hmm. It's a large percentage of voters who are in Bernie's camp. Mm-hmm. So is there some sort of an email that's secure or someplace that we can start putting all this stuff together so that, there's one centralized location?
As a campaign,
thank you.
We're seeing it, thank you. As a campaign, we're seeing it state to state, and we are growing increasingly concerned as well. But, as a campaign, as a campaign, we're not going to complain about it. We're not going to, it'll sound like sour grapes. Even in the states that we won, they haven't had that problem. So, but I think there are groups doing something about it, and I think it's more than Bernie's campaign. We need to get to the bottom of what's going on, and I think everybody should speak out about what they know. And I was wondering, with the UN, I saw some things online, the whitehouse.gov, the UN. Asking the UN to oversee and monitor the elections, asking Jimmy Carter's center to oversee it. And I think that if people honestly have, not hearsay, because that happens a lot, and we don't want to make it a bigger problem than it is. I do think it needs to be addressed. Our campaign is working to try to win this election, and we can't get diverted into that at this point. But I would ask anybody who has a concern, get involved with one of those things and one of those groups, and let your voices and document your experience. We're hearing it a lot. We're getting a lot of people calling in, but I don't have a secure email to give you. I'm sorry. Okay. Where's Ellen?
Right back here.
Okay. We need to come up here again too.
Thank you, Ms. Sanders, for joining us this evening. I can tell you right now that I represent the demographic of voters in a young age, college age group, and you have our full support here in the state of Alaska.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have worked in the energy sector in this state in oil my whole entire adult life. I see firsthand the massive abuse that the use of oil has caused to our state's climate and to the climate of the world. This last December was the first time on record that we have increased the global climate by 2 degrees Fahrenheit.
Mm-hmm.
What sort of federal subsidies can we expect from a Bernie Sanders administration in regards to renewable and clean energy infrastructure development? My second question is, being that this nation in the United States is the largest per capita user and emitter of carbon emissions in the world, does Bernie Sanders support other forms of renewable and or clean energy such as nuclear? I have heard nothing on Bernie Sanders' opinion on this subject. Thank you.
He has, well, first off, I mentioned earlier that he would put subsidies into renewables. We do not support nuclear. Because it may be, I mean, they're getting enormous subsidies from the federal government, and because nobody can build a nuclear power plant and have it be insured. So the government takes that risk. So we definitely do not support nuclear energy because you pay at the other end. When you close them, if there are no problems, so that's not going to happen. Geothermal, wind, solar, new ways of doing things. So he will be offering subsidies and moving them away from the nuclear industry, oil and coal and gas.
Right here.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Galen, and I was wondering what your main focus as First Lady would be, as Michelle Obama's is children's health.
I've always worked with children and families. I've been involved in education. When Bernie was mayor, I ran the youth office for the city of Burlington, and that was just the best job in the world because I was working with kids from 2 to 18 and helping them reach their full potential, to follow their dreams. So I think I would focus on that. My focus would be on saying, how do we have this be the best country in the world to raise a family, the best place that allowed every person, regardless of financial considerations or where they live, have educational equity, have the opportunity to pursue the things that they're interested in. And so I would very much likely do that. I have found, as I've gone around the country, that it's been really upsetting to see the institutional racism that still exists. I'm not talking about bigotry like we hear from Trump, but well, that's terrible. But I'm talking about institutional racism and the lack of care to provide a good standard of living, a good quality of life for everybody. So I think I would focus on that a bit as we went forward.
Hello, my name is Samantha Rogers, and I am a medical marijuana patient here in Anchorage, in Alaska. And we legalized medical marijuana in 1998, but we have never had a dispensary or had it easily available to our patients. And even now, since we've legalized recreational marijuana in November 2014, we still do not have access. What would a Sanders administration do to guarantee us, and also the other states as well, access to medical marijuana?
I don't understand why you don't have a dispensary unless it's because you're in a rural area and it's not as profitable for people to do it. Are you not allowed legally? Oh, okay. We'd cut the red tape. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think once the state makes the decision and the people of the state support it, I think he would work to cut the red tape. So, okay.
Right over here, Jane.
Hi, my name is Neva Reese. I'm a librarian at North Star Elementary, which is the second most diverse elementary school in the United States. Thank you very much. And To speak, perhaps to branch off the previous question about what you would do as a First Lady, since that was your focus, could you maybe speak, I know we hear a lot about free college and stuff, but what do we do, just in a nutshell, which I know might be hard, but for policy for K-12 education, because we're struggling, and right now in the state of Alaska, they're talking about draconian cuts, happily, unfortunately. And I fear for my job every day, but that's not really the issue. But I am concerned about the kids and what kind of solid education they get to help them get to those free college opportunities.
Okay, good question. Thank you for the question. I think that it's a question of priorities. We are spending a lot of money modernizing our nuclear arsenal, and we have way more. I don't know what would happen after the first 2,000 went off, but I think, you know, we don't need to spend a lot of money there on that. It's a question of not getting into unnecessary and unproductive military interventions. Changing our focus. I think his opponent is very clearly has supported regime change culture, that there's a bad guy, a dictator, we have to throw him out, and then we do something to try to bring democracy to the area. It's cost us a lot of money and a lot of lives, both here and in their countries. So Bernie strongly opposes the regime change policies. We can go back to Mossadegh, we can go back to the Shah of Iran, Allende. I mean, the Mossadegh Shah of Iran led us to the Ayatollah Khomeini and the Islamic Revolution. I mean, this is why where we are now, that our country thought better, and we thought we should take over, we should interject ourselves in sovereign nations and change the point of view. The latest is Gaddafi in Libya, and Secretary Clinton says very clearly she's the one that pushed President Obama to do that, and that is what has given rise to ISIS, a vacuum in leadership. The Iraq War was terrible, and both Bernie and Secretary Clinton listened to the things they were saying. I would urge you to go to BernieSanders.com and see what he said as to why he voted no on the Iraq War. He said, these are the things that I'm concerned about. And unfortunately, it gives us no pleasure to know this, but he was right in everything he predicted.
Over here.
So we are spending money where we don't need to spend money. We have a Defense Department has it's the only part of the government that cannot be audited because it's too big. So we'll break it down and figure it out, but they don't know where the money is going. He will shift the priorities of this country so that they are toward the children. We all know the first 4 years of a person's life are the most important. We need to be putting money there. K through 12 has to be no more No Child Left Behind and teaching to the test. We will be, the purpose of an education is to arouse the creativity and the innovation and bring out who they are and what their interests are. So I can promise you, we'll focus on the things that concern you. Thank you.
Right over here.
First, I want to thank you for coming up here to Alaska. The fact that you're up here speaks volumes about your campaign's commitment to our state and to the next generation, where climate change and other issues will be a problem. And unfortunately, my question isn't about that. My question is about something much more bleak. I was 7 on 9/11. I'm 21 now. 2/3 of my life, I have known the threat of global terror, and I am sick of it. I am sick of standing in solidarity with people when they are killed. I am sick of having constantly to be reminded of the violence in this world. And my question is, what will a Sanders administration do going forward to combat groups like ISIS? Because we've tried a ground war, we've tried predator drones, And we know that he knew what to do. He knew that the ground war was a bad idea. But what is he going to do further so that my children don't know the threat of global terrorism and their children don't know the threat of global terrorism? Thank you.
Yeah. It's an important question. It's not an easy question. I think that one of the things that he's been very clear about is that he does not, he agrees with King Abdullah, who has said this is a war for the soul of Islam. And the last thing that we need to do is bring the great imperial power to fight ISIS. That's exactly what they want. What we need to do is to work with the Muslim nations in the area, and there are millions of soldiers in those nations. There is a lot of money on the Arab Peninsula, and we should be leaning on them to put their money and their soldiers to fight. The 30 or 40,000 ISIS soldiers, they can easily be beaten. We have, through things, you know, some air support and drones and other things, have actually beaten back ISIS about 20% of what they had of the land they held last year. So there are some successes, and what he would do is take a much harder approach. I don't understand why our government isn't doing this yet, but Kuwait, when we did the Iraq War the first time, it was to save Kuwait, and they are one of the richest countries in the world. Where are they spending their money now? We have Qatar. I think they're fighting in Yemen. We need them to fight ISIS. Qatar is spending 220, I always get it wrong because I don't know, million, billion, I don't know, but a lot of money to bring World Cup soccer to their country. And I think it is billion, and we want them, and Bernie has called the ambassador in to talk with him about that. So he would be building a coalition of people to have Muslim troops on the ground, the other countries, France, Germany, England, us, as air support and strategic support, perhaps training, but and just make a concerted effort, an all-out effort now.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Mm-hmm.
Now, over the past decade or so, as we've been fighting this war, we sometimes prioritize fighting the enemy over being a nation worth living in. I don't need. And my question really is, does this administration believe it is possible to protect American citizens and our Western allies and defeat ISIS while also upholding the principles of this nation? Because if we defeat the terrorists and we are no longer a nation worth living in, have we really won?
Right. No, I think this administration does believe in that. And I think, I think Obama has done a good job in terms of not sending us into more wars. You are not down in Washington. The Republicans are finding a different country to invade every week. So they really believe that's the answer to everything. So I think that the question about the fear that drove the Patriot Act is a problem. I mean, people are afraid, and when they're afraid, they look toward the strong men like Donald Trump. I'm going to just bomb them, or protect us, and I can deal with a lack of privacy. Well, no. We have to uphold the Constitution. We have to be the country that we were and want to be. So I think it's a fine line, and it's a fight. Because and it's important that all of us speak out when we hear the drums of war. Every editorial page will be saying we have to go to war. So you have to stand up and say, no, we don't, and Bernie will. Time is up.
Right.
Where is?
All the way back here. Hi.
Hi, thanks so much for coming to Alaska. I wanted to ask a question about parental leave.
As I'm sure you know, the United States joins Swaziland, Lesotho, and
Papua New
Guinea in being the only countries without paid parental leave. And of the industrialized countries, we're just, not even in the ballpark. What is the Sanders administration's stance on that, and what are the logistics of how it would be funded, how it would work?
Okay. He's a co-sponsor of Senator Kirsten Gillibrand's bill in the Senate and Rosa DeLaura's bill in the House, companion bills, to have 12 weeks of paid medical and family leave, so that people who have a baby can stay home and bond with their baby and not worry about losing their jobs or not being able to put food on the table. It's also not just for maternity, it's paternity, and it's also if your child gets sick or your aging parent needs help, that you actually have that possibility to take time off without worrying about losing your job. It would cost the average person, it would cost about $70 a year in taxes. And we strongly support that, and we think that most people would support that because they don't have to worry anymore if they're sick as well, to be able to stay home. His opponent, Secretary Clinton, will not support it because she will not raise taxes, even that much, for a good cause. And there's a big difference there between the two of them. He won't make any, this is my blanket stance and that's what it is. He listens and thinks about every idea and says, what is it that people want? And that's the only thing that is in all his programs that is raising taxes on the middle class. As I said, the health care would have higher premiums, not higher premiums, would have higher taxes, but it would be an actual saving because you'd have no premiums. I don't want to have people come leaving in dribs and drabs, so I know it's getting late, so I know nobody's left yet, but I wanted to just say maybe we'll go until 9. Is that good? Okay.
Over here.
And there's people up front too. Yeah.
Hi there. Thank you for being here. My name is Helen, and two questions, different directions. We talked about the threat, in scare quotes, of global terrorism, but also I think we need to talk about international trade, amending NAFTA, CAFTA, thinking about trade in real terms and how it affects the lives of Americans, but also recognizing that the distribution networks that we have today are completely dependent upon those trade lines that are already established. And also, what does Bernie do to relax?
He gets together with our family and our kids and their spouses and our grandchildren and plays baseball out in the backyard and plays chess, listens to music. He likes a lot of different kinds, Motown, classical, lots of different kinds. And he's liking a lot more as these rap musicians are coming out for him. It's expanding him culturally. In terms of trade, he voted against NAFTA, against CAFTA, against permanent normal trade relations with China, and he's strongly opposing the TPP. When NAFTA was passed, he went down to Mexico and he went and saw these beautiful, shiny new factories where all the American companies moved down there to get people at much cheaper labor. And then he went to the maquiladoros where the people who worked in those factories lived. And they weren't housing, they were cardboard boxes with hanging light bulbs and no running water. And they were being paid 25 cents an hour. And he raised holy hell when he went back. And so he's been fighting for fair trade. Unfortunately, whether it's Republican or Democratic presidents, up until this point, the corporate America has carried the day. He believes that we need fair trade that raises the level on both sides of the border and that doesn't allow there to be a race to the bottom for our American workers. So he will fight very hard for that.
Hi, where does Bernie stand on open disclosure of genetically modified organisms in our food supply and chemicals in our everyday everything? And
Yeah, he's been a leader on that. When he was mayor in the 1980s, he fought Monsanto, and 60 Minutes came up. 60 Minutes came up to hear about his fight to keep them out of the state and have to disclose all the pesticides they were using, all the chemicals they were using. And what happened was interesting. 60 Minutes did a long story, and then Monsanto sued them and said if you put it on, or actually probably didn't sue them, promised to sue them if they put it on. They never put it on the air. And that was that, but he supported Vermont coming up with a GMO labeling law, and it's the first state in the country that's done that. And I think it just withstood a Supreme Court decision that said that, that was okay, and because they sued Vermont. And now I just read while I was traveling that General Mills is going to be putting out ingredients and GMO labeling on their foods. So we're moving forward, and state after state just has to keep on making it clear. But labeling isn't banning. One of the other things he did when he was in the House was he came up. It was the first bill that he passed. It's the cancer registry bill, and that established cancer registries so that if you had medical reports of cancers in different kinds of cancers in every area, it goes right into this national registry, and so you're able to identify clusters. We knew when we did that, we did it to make sure to learn more about cancer and the causes of cancer, but also to say, well, where are the pesticide plants? Where are the chemical plants? What is causing this? And we did that at 2 o'clock in the morning. We put it in the bill. We got just stuck it in the bill. It passed. And the next morning, we heard from so many lobbyists, how did this happen? How did this get past us? So it actually is doing a very good job around the country in determining where there are clusters of cancer and figuring out what the causes are.
They've had their hand up for a while. Here we go.
Thank you. Welcome to Alaska.
Thank
My name
you.
is Peter Allward. I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner. I don't know if you're aware, but there's been an implosion in mental health treatment in this state.
Yes.
As a practitioner, I have long lines of people waiting to see me. And even then, I have to ask you some questions. What is your stance on preventative medicine? And how will this, I'm paid to give pills.
Yeah.
I mean, if I see somebody for medication management, I get a certain amount of money. There's nothing for me doing any teaching or training. As a nurse, I spend a great deal of my own private time trying to do these things that are powerful, as powerful or more powerful than medications for helping my patients get well.
Mhm.
And so, but the system, the system punishes me. I'm not allowed to give free care. If I try to, so I have to lie. I have to do it on my lunch hour. I have to stay late at night to do things like help families who don't have therapists. I'm trained as a therapist, but I'm not paid to do it.
Mhm.
And as a nurse practitioner, I also am very supportive of the medical marijuana piece. I'm not allowed to prescribe, which is an issue, but I think there is a very willful practice to keep obstruction. One of the things, guys, being a class-scheduled drug, there's no research done. I anecdotally know for many of my patients that the marijuana works better than many of the meds that I have to prescribe them. It does. I listen to what they say, and so even though we talk about it, I've never, if they use certain meds, I teach them about the interactions, but I have no problem with them using marijuana. But I would really like to know what's safe.
Right.
I have strong inklings that for certain types of bipolar disorder, marijuana works way better than a lot of the meds we're using.
Mhm.
And so, but there's no research to support that. So I'm stuck in this weird little place. And then dealing with the, getting veterans who have PTSD, which I'm trained to use, it is so hard for me to take them as patients. The amount of paperwork is so onerous to take them on. I have to do layers of paperwork. It's incredible. And then as a provider, I don't get paid, but I do it anyway. I get these patients. Many of my patients, for some reason, have enough money to get insurance to get their meds through me, but they can't afford to eat. They don't have, I keep food in my refrigerator. I feed many of my patients because they haven't eaten that day. This is a crazy system, and so it's breaking my heart.
Yeah.
And then there's one other thing I have to say, and I want to ask another question. As a gay man, which I am, I never got married. I never had children. I wanted children. I couldn't even adopt children. And what will you do about that so the next generation doesn't have to? This is the closest thing to children I say I have is my nephews. But I love children, and that's one of the biggest regrets of my life, that I lived in a state where this was never possible until now. Please tell, the last statement I have to say is my nephew, for all my life, he knows what a liberal Democrat I am. I've always tried to get him to be politically active, and the fact that you can get this generation to care, it's time, guys, your generation. We've talked about World War II being the great generation who fought Nazism and totalitarianism. Very easy to see evils, but there are new evils that threaten to destroy our democracy and end the human race. You need to become the next great generation. Use the social media, get around the roadblocks, do that. Work with this man. We have so much to do. We have so much to do, and I will do whatever I can to help you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry you were never able to adopt children because clearly you have a heart that would benefit them. I think that the questions that you raise about mental health, it's about health. It's about wellness. It's about changing the culture from disease, treatment of disease, to encouragement of health and wellness. So we'd definitely be putting money into that, into the focus on prevention, primary prevention, tertiary prevention, in every area actually is better than treatment only. In terms of mental health, when we came down into the Senate, we heard all this talk about mental health parity, and we were going to get it, and everybody wrote all these bills, and then just so many accolades about these senators that put together mental health parity. And it's not. We all know that. There's no money for mental health. There's no support. It's tokenism. And what we need to do is focus on the fact that it's no different. It's part of our national health care system that says you are a whole person. We need to help you be healthy. Okay. Right.
You have mental health issues, you do not get the same level of care. You have stigma. I have to work so hard with my patients. Sometimes I have to go into the ER with them to make sure they're being treated because of their behaviors and their label. They don't get treated. They get sent to the psych ER. I have people vomiting blood who, because they're upset, are sent out the door. Meanwhile, it turns out they have necrotic gallbladder.
Right. We believe Bernie will be putting more money into mental health. It's not okay that you don't have access or you can't afford to get what you need. And the waiting lines are way too long. Yes? Which one here?
Hi. 27 years ago today, there was a captain, you probably all know him as Joseph Hazelwood. But the Exxon Valdez spilled oil tanker in, I guess, my backyard, but everybody's backyard. We fought for years and years to try and, just make a living, and part of it was just trying to exist, and without, a lot of us were, in our late 20s and 30s, just buying into the permits and getting set up to make fishing a career, and there's a certain group in that thing that just kind of got wiped out because they couldn't sustain their way of life, but attorneys got a hold of it. We just wanted to go to work, make money, and fish and make a life. But attorneys got a hold of it, told us we weren't fishermen, we weren't part of the community, made us jump these hoops, tell us hey, we had 3 consecutive years in this part, 3 consecutive years over here. People would be rewarded up in the Aleutians for Sheen, and we're knee deep in oil. So the unfairness about it. But what I'm trying to say is, and I'm sure Bernie's probably on board, would he, impose a little bit stiffer regulations that wouldn't have to go through the court systems and get high-powered attorneys wiping out communities and fisheries. The herring still hasn't come back.
Yeah.
So basically, I would hope to shout that he would impose, so we wouldn't have to put up a big legal fund and be made whole again on.
Well, that's one of the things. I mean, the inequity of our criminal justice system is, that was criminal. and what we are talking about, or what Bernie's talking about, is saying that in most states in the union, not here in Alaska evidently, but somebody gets picked up for marijuana, they have a police record. People that destroy our economy, destroy our environment, get no police record. They get no criminal charges. They get no real problems in their lives, and communities have to pay. So, it's a question of what's your perspective? And I think maybe we'll end on this. I think his perspective is your perspective. His perspective is, how do I help the people that don't have lobbyists down in Washington? How do I help improve the lives of the people that are doing their best to raise a family, to make a living, to make a difference in our communities? How do I help them? That's what he sees his job as. He believes, and he is, a public servant. He's not running for president because he's always had the ambition to be president, never had. He's running for president because he believes he can make a difference. That's the best difference he can make. And he will be on your side. You'll disagree with him on some things. Always that happens. Nobody agrees with anybody 100% of the time. But you'll always know where he stands. You'll always know where his heart is. And you'll always know that you can count on him. So I thank you so much for all your support. Thank you. I like to, thank you. I like to do selfies, but there's so many people here. I wonder if we could get a group shot. Hillary standing on a chair. Is it possible, Hillary? Okay.
Didn't know what time it was, the lights were low. Oh, oh, I leaned back on my radio. Oh, oh, some cat was laying down some rock and roll, like a soul said. Then the loud sound, it seemed to fade. Came back like a slow voice on a wave of fade. That weren't no DJ, that was hazy cosmic time. There's a starman waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'd blow our minds. There's a star Look out your window, I can see his light. If he can sparkle, he may land tonight. Don't tell your papa, or he'll get us locked up and fight. There's a starman waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'd blow our minds. There's a starman waiting in the sky. He's told us not to blow it, 'cause he knows it's on with what he told me. Let the children lose it, let the children use it, let all the children boogie. Starman waiting in the sky. Thank you.